Hello class, let's start by going over displacement maps. So, displacement maps tend to be used to wrap materials around other objects. Classically, this is done to make flags wave or put circuit boards around people's faces. This was a common effect done in the late 90s in Photoshop. For this assignment, we're going to use it a little bit differently and use it to apply texture to clothing or patterns to clothing. And so to demonstrate, let's start with the classics. We'll begin with a flag wave. So I have here Wikipedia's flag of the United States, and we're just going to make it wave a little bit. And I'll show you how the settings in displacement map changes what the end result is. So first things first, I want a new document to be a displacement map. And I want that to be the same size as the document that I will be displacing. Fastest way to do that is to select all with either Edit Select All, or if you're on PC, Control A. If you're on a Mac, that's just Command A. Remember, instead of Control, just use Command. If you're on a Macintosh, work for you just fine. Instead of Alt, use Option, work for you just fine. So we're going to do Control A to select all, Control C to copy. And now that that's in the edit buffer, when you create a new document, it will be sized exactly right. Now, you'll notice that I'm on a slightly older version of Photoshop. That's the one that I have on the system that has my screen recording software, but this will work fine for any version of Photoshop. I actually prefer the old version for the new. It doesn't have all the unnecessary buttons that Adobe decided people desperately needed. That just kind of gets in the way. So we're going to go ahead and create this. Notice that the preset is set to clipboard, so it immediately knows how big, how tall this is, what resolution, all of that good stuff. We'll tell it OK. So we've got a document the exact same size. What I'm going to do is just take a nice fuzzy brush. I'm going to just click outside. Then I'm going to click on the other side, but I'm going to hold down Shift first. So Shift click, and that will make a nice straight line. That's a little darker than I want it to be for what I'm doing, because that will push it a little too far. Well, you know what? Let's make it extreme, actually. Let's go for it. So I'll go ahead and click, hold down Shift, click, cool, click, hold down Shift, click, great, click, hold down Shift, click, and one more time, click, Shift click, great. I'm going to blur this out a little bit with a filter, blur, my favorite blur, Gaussian blur. And we'll just crank that up just a bit. Tell that okay. So now we've got this. In older versions of Photoshop, you had to make this a grayscale image, and that would be under Image Modes, Grayscale, in order for it to work. Today, you don't have to do that. It will interpret it if it's in RGB. But you know, to be better and just be more compatible, go ahead and leave it in grayscale. Now remember, if you're going to do a color image and convert it to black and white, use the black and white controls. I like to use the adjustment map, and that would the adjustment layer under the little circle, the black white icon circle here, and then you just tell it black and white, which is currently grayed out because I've just set it to grayscale, and then set it to grayscale afterwards. That way you actually have control over where your colors are going. All right, that said, we're just going to save this. And we'll call this flag displacement map. And typing one-handed since I'm holding a microphone, so it takes a little bit. There we go. And we want it to be a Photoshop PSD. Tell it save. Cool. Close that up. Now then, this will be a destructive edit, so I can either put this inside of a smart object or I can duplicate it. In this case, I'm going to duplicate it because I want to show you what the different controls do. So I have the duplicate, I have the original. Just turn off the original here. We have the copy. And I'm going to go to Filter, Distort, Displace. Now I'm going to do the horizontal scale. That's how much it will be distorted horizontally by 10 pixels, and the vertical scale by 10 pixels as well. And let me double check my notes so that I don't tell you wrong here. Keep in mind that when you do a displace, Anything that's lighter than 50% gray will be shifted up and left. Anything that's darker than 50% gray will be down and to the right. And so this is how the waves will end up being generated in our flag, because we'll be using our displacement map. So we have a couple of options. The displacement map can either be set to stretch to fit. So in other words, if the displacement map were, say, the size of this box and our flag was the size of the flag, Photoshop would grab it and stretch it out so that it would fit. You could also tile it so that Photoshop would just put it down and then tile it across, all the way across. Our flag's displacement map is the exact same size as the flag, so that doesn't matter. So we're just going to do a stretch to fit. Now your two options that will make a difference are wraparound and repeat edge pixels. So let's start with repeat edge pixels. We'll tell it OK, and this is strange. This is how you get to the displacement map. Voila, it pops up a window. So we're going to use the flag displacement map, a flag displacement map. We've got these nice strong waves. So you notice that it's generated like extra stuff. Let me get my pointer here. It's generated extra stuff. It doesn't have the flag being transparent here like it should be, since there's nothing below it at the moment. That's what happens when it does the stretch to fit. Let's go ahead and take a look at our other option. Again, I will duplicate the flag. Another option is the wrap to fit. Now I'm not going to use the Control F. That would repeat the displacement map with the exact same settings. Instead, since I want to try different settings, I'll go back down to Distort, Displace. This time I'll set it to, oh, I'm sorry, I said stretch to fit. I meant to say repeat edge pixels. Got that one wrong. And now we'll try the wrap around instead. So the wrap around will actually take whatever, well, I'll show you. Here we go. Whoops. Once more filling, filter, distort, displace. Wrap around, okay. Flag displacement map. Oh, where'd this red come from? Where'd this blue come from? Well, as it displaced, it pulled this up, and then it looked at what was all the way wrapping around at the top here. It found blue, so it stretched out the blue. Over here, it pulled the blue down, and then it needed to find out what to use, so it went all the way around to the other side and sampled the red, and it added it in. Look how bad this is over here. This really isn't what you want. This was just some white area, so just pulled it hard left. That's not super great. So in my opinion, when you're using a displacement map, it's a much better option to go through and use the repeat edges instead. It's usually better to also use the stretch to fit with the displacement map, but really much, much better than that is to go ahead and make the displacement map the same size as what you're going to be displacing. So this is how you use a displacement map. Now the way we're going to be using it will be a little bit different, as we'll demonstrate in one of the next videos.